The subject for tonight's discussion, is there a beat generation? It is a subject of considerable interest on many college campuses, particularly urban universities. It is of literary interest, of interest as a social phenomenon, and some would consider as a symptom of the alienation which many young people experience in trying to adapt to the standards of the problems of our society in this anxious age.
The beat generation revolves around one word, and that is beat. But what does the word really mean? Merriam-Webster Dictionary defines beat as to hit repeatedly so as to inflict pain, often used with up, to pound into a powder, paste, or pulp, and being in a state of exhaustion, being sapped of resolution or morale. This video will explore a few definitions of the word beat by the Beat Generation authors such as Herbert Huncke, Jack Kerouac, William Burroughs, and Allen Ginsberg, and it will offer more insight into the generation itself. Herbert Huncke is identified as being one of the first people to use the word beat in context of the generation. Huncke was introduced into the group of authors by William Burroughs, to whom he was selling drugs at the time, and it was Burroughs and Jack Kerouac who got Huncke to begin writing. Kerouac stated about Huncke, "When I first saw the hipsters creeping around Times Square in 1944, I didn't like them either. One of them, Huncke of Chicago, came up to me and said, 'Man, I'm beat.' I knew right away what he meant somehow." The true origins of the word beat trace their way back to Herbert Huncke.
Threats, broken noses, lumps, observations. Something is about to go down.
I got the most hard question of all, but everybody always puts it to you, I'm sure. I mean, because everybody always puts it to you. How would you define the word beat? I don't mean why not time. I mean, really, is there...
sympathetic.
As we can see in this interview, Kerouac states beat as meaning sympathetic. To me, this means that the world of the beat generation is inherited by the discontent and the dispossessed who don't fit in anywhere else. It is about trying to walk in someone else's shoes before you judge them. In Jack Kerouac's essay, Origins of the Beat Generation, he offers new ideas about the word beat. He states, "I am not ashamed to wear the crucifix of my Lord. It is because I am beat. That is, I believe in beatitude and that God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son to it." Kerouac acknowledges that he got the concept of beat from Huncke, but states that he is the originator of the term and that around it the term and the generation have taken shape. Kerouac is the one that brought the term beat into use.
Well, the whole beat movement, which has become a worldwide cultural revolution, absolutely unprecedented. There's never been anything like it before.
William Burroughs was one of the oldest members of the Beat Generation and is recognized as one of its founders. Burroughs, just like Herbert Huncke, was coerced by Kerouac into writing down his ideas and sharing them with the public. He did not have a lot of commentary on the word beat itself, but commented more on the word in context of the generation. Burroughs saw the Beat Generation as a way of breaking away from the norms of everyday life. He wrote a lot about the issue of power and influence, and he experimented with the idea of the cut-up, random way of writing. It was a way to have control in giving up control. Burroughs saw the members of the generation as being beat down by the control that was being imposed on themselves and the public.
What was the effect on you on living with a mother who was mad?
Well, it gave me a great sort of tolerance for eccentric behavior, certainly, and a kind of understanding of the varieties of suffering that people can go through.
Allen Ginsberg was one of the most famous members of the Beat Generation and had great influences on many of its members. For most of his life, Ginsberg was a practicing Buddhist and embraced the Bodhisattva ideal. This made him a very compassionate and sympathetic person, and his ideas about the word beat seemed to align with Kerouac's. Kerouac is quoted as saying, "The Beat Generation, that was a vision we had, John McClellan Holmes and I," and Allen Ginsberg in an even wilder way. In the late 40s, of a generation of crazy, illuminated hipsters suddenly rising and roaming America, serious, bumming and hitchhiking everywhere, ragged, beatific, beautiful in an ugly, graceful new way.
Father Death, don't cry anymore. Mama's there underneath the floor. Brother Death, please mind the store.
The authors and artists of the Beat Generation were perhaps just as diverse as the word beat itself. There does not seem to be any single definition that can be pinned onto the word. It has been taken differently by society with words like beatnik. Some of the authors did not even consider themselves to be grouped into the Beat Generation. They were simply a group of friends who wrote and shared ideas with each other. I tend to think Kerouac's definition of beat is perhaps the most accurate, but the meanings change depending on who is interpreting it. This is not to say any one definition is right or wrong, but even with the deaths of many of the prominent Beat Generation figures, the word beat lives on and continues to change.